So in a world where Ford no longer makes the Ford Flex, there's been a gap in the market for a boxy, low-slung station wagon that can transport the family all over the country. And of all the manufacturers, Hyundai has stepped up and completely transformed the Santa Fe to what we see here. So on this episode of Clipboard Cars, we're going to walk you through front to back and all the features inside, as well as talk to you guys about how it drives. So let's get going. Now overall, when you look at the new Santa Fe, it's just a complete box, just rectangular shaped, and Hyundai has really emphasized the letter H everywhere on this vehicle. You can start by looking at the headlights. They have a H design right here, and they carry that design all the way through. The H is actually transferred right here in the front bumper. It's just kind of funny how many ways they have that design just incorporated throughout the entire vehicle. There's an actual light bar that goes across the whole front of the vehicle as well. There are several different styles of the front end that you can get with the Hyundai. There are active aero pieces to help keep the battery and engine actually at a warmer temperature as needed, or at a certain speed they open up and bring in extra air to cool the engine. There's your general air intake is going to be down here at the bottom, but again, these flaps up here in the front can open up, and you can actually see a little camera right here, and that's a part of the 360 camera system. Overall, I really like the way this looks. This is the limited trim model, and let's go ahead and make our way to the side of the vehicle and take a look at that. So as we come across the side, you'll see that the entire base perimeter of the design of the vehicle is made of ABS plastic, but it just kind of gives it a tough look, breaks up the chrome from the actual paint, just adds that extra style feature to it. You have a Santa Fe badge here, and then for the limited model, we have 20-inch wheels that actually look pretty good with a good 5-spoke design. Now the mirrors do fold when you lock the vehicle. You have an LED turn signal, as well as the next camera that will actually double for both the 360 camera and your turn signals, and we'll show you that when we go for a drive. So up top, you have rails for a roof rack setup. Wouldn't necessarily recommend this for overlanding if you're planning on putting a tent up here. Some people tend to do that with Subarus and whatnot. This actually has a max capacity of 200 pounds, and I wouldn't throw a roof rack tent or a rooftop tent up on top and try to sleep on it. You would be pushing the limits. One of the things I like about this design is that it has the floating roof effect. So you've got paint here, black, and then paint. They painted everything as far as the A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, D pillar. All of it is all black. You have nice, lightly tinted glass from the dealership. And then the back door is actually kind of interesting because this is the window that rolls down, and you would think that this is a giant blind spot. It's actually not. The glass continues right here, and then you've got a little bit of a pillar, and then you've got glass. But boy, what a massive rear door. It's kind of rare to actually have the front door be the same length, if not smaller than the rear door. That's fairly uncommon, but the back seat space in this is pretty impressive. All right, so coming around to the rear of the Santa Fe, pretty plain Jane design. You can tell that they pretty much just had a square to design the entire vehicle. We've got rear taillights that again carry the H design. You've got taillights down here, and that's for federal regulation. So when you open the tailgate itself, you still have lights that are able to show for oncoming traffic that your vehicle is still parked off to the side of the road and you're visible. You have a backup camera here that's visible. The giant Santa Fe badging, just like every other manufacturer's doing. They're just wanting to let everybody know what you bought. And then a neat feature about the back of this is that the rear wiper blade is tucked up underneath the rear diffuser. So on the hybrid model, all the exhaust is tucked up underneath the vehicle to kind of give it that more eco look. And then this particular Santa Fe, you'll notice the H-Track. That is the all-wheel drive feature that this vehicle has and is highly recommended, not just for living in the northern states, but if you live in the south and you get caught in a rainstorm and stuff like that, it's very beneficial to have the extra traction and control over the vehicle when you're going for anywhere from a short drive to a long drive. It's always good to have it. So the car, if you're in a tight parking spot, you can actually summon it to come to you, or you can put it in the tight parking spot and it'll do it itself straight from the key. So what you're going to do is hit the lock button, which locks it, press and hold to auto start the engine, which fires it up, and then I can go ahead and bring the car to me just by pressing and holding the button. Comes right my way. Please don't hit me. It won't hit me. The sensors work. Life's great. And then I can go ahead and back the car away from me, back into its parking spot. How cool is that? All right, so since it's 95 degrees in Michigan, we're gonna go ahead and just continue doing this shoot from inside the vehicle, and I'll tell you about the features. Funny story, we started this trip actually in Texas, going to Michigan, thinking that it would be a little bit cooler to shoot up here. That's not the case today. We're in Michigan's peak summer temperature weather, and I'll be honest, we've got air-conditioned seats in this thing, and they're doing wonderful things for me. A little bit of acceleration. Wouldn't say this thing's your next Ferrari by any means, but it's got decent acceleration, definitely enough to get up to speed for going on the highway. It's definitely not going to be a neck snapping kind of vehicle. After 2.5 days of driving this vehicle from Texas to Michigan, no problems on comfort. This thing just glides over the road. I don't know what Hyundai's doing in their suspension department, but they're clearly doing things right. So when you first get into the Santa Fe, you're greeted with two separate screens that are giving the illusion of one giant screen. But each screen is 12.3 inches, but when you combine them together, you get 24.6 inches of just gauge cluster that gives you everything you need to know about what's going on with your vehicle. Your initial gauge cluster, though, has a lot of useful information on it. The self-driving right now is actually interrupting a lot of my driving input at the moment, which is good and bad at the same time. Your gauge cluster is going to show your speed on the left toggle, your RPMs on the right. It's also going to show your charge as far as recharging the regenerative battery, and show you your overall eco performance that you're getting throughout the vehicle. And then when you hit the turn signal, your actual camera that's on the mirror itself will trigger the screen to pull up, and it'll show you your blind spot, so you don't actually have to worry too much about wondering if you're going to hit somebody or someone's going to hit you. It's all very visible, very clean to use. It's actually one of my favorite new features that the Hyundai lineup has been putting in their vehicles. So I can actually take my hands off the wheel temporarily. It will find the lines. It'll also keep a good distance between me and the vehicle in front of me. It's a little bit freaky because I see oncoming traffic and I don't have my hands on the wheel. It's very creepy, but it's doing a great job. This is actually one of the better lane keep assists I've seen. That's including German car design and American car design. This is a very easy to use feature. It's just one button, you tap it, it'll eventually, it's already telling me, put your hands back on the wheel. The interface and usability of this car is very easy. Like I said, one button and the system's already doing its thing. Another feature that this vehicle has is actually two infrared LED indicators that are above the steering wheel on the column. They're tracking your eyes to see if you're like dozing off, looking off, or if you're actually looking at your screen for too long as far as your infotainment system. It'll give you a little trigger warning like, hey, eyes on the road. You can deactivate that feature in case that gets a little too annoying for you. Some people just don't like that much intrusion on their driving, but again, good safety feature to have, especially if you have a new driver or someone that's a little old on the driving side, that you want to make sure that they're staying alert, staying aware of what they're doing when they're driving. Again, we're talking about a Hyundai, and typically when you hear that name, you're like, okay, base model, entry-level stuff, not a whole lot of bells and whistles going on. I am thoroughly shocked at everything that's going on in this vehicle. We're about to go on the highway, and we're going to test out the radar, or the adaptive cruise control, which is radar guided. So that means I can just set the cruise, the lane keep assist will take over, the radar will also determine the vehicles in front of me. I don't really have to do much of the input for driving. I kind of just sit here and babysit the vehicle. It's a bit ridiculous to think about when I put that with the name Hyundai. We'll do an actual 0 to 60 test later on in this video, but I wouldn't exactly say this is the fastest car. However, everything about it was very smooth about getting up to speed. The transmission's very smooth at shifting. I honestly didn't even know this thing had an engine running until we finally gave it some RPMs. It's a very quiet vehicle. The sound deadening is great. I don't know, I seem to be saying a lot of great things about this vehicle. The only thing I can say is it's just not gonna be neck snapping speed. My feet aren't on the pedals, my hands aren't on the steering wheel. This vehicle is just driving itself. I am only going 65 miles an hour at the moment, which is making everyone behind me a little bit upset. They can go around me. They know we're shooting a video, right? Again, and this is stuff that I'd be expecting in an S-Class Mercedes, Range Rover, all those like really high-end premium names. It's just something you wouldn't expect out of a Hyundai. This is the limited trim. It's the second highest level trim level that you can get for the Santa Fe. And this trim level starts out at 43.7. And as equipped, this one's at about 48.5, and then with different incentives or any sales that dealerships have, you can try and find some negotiating power to get that price down a little bit. But that's still not a bad price, especially for everything that's packed in here. We've got leather seats that have the fun theme of the letter H just carried through. You got air-conditioned heated seats, a very well laid out center console. Again, the 26-inch display that goes across the screen. This also has the optional Bose surround sound, which, I'll be honest, one of the best sounding systems you can get in a vehicle today. We're driving through a construction zone at the moment, so let's just kind of see what this thing does. I have my hands ready to take over. It does catch it. It's going to catch that one too. This is nuts. This is so cool. The only thing that this car doesn't have that I wouldn't expect a Hyundai to have any of these features, and the only thing that it doesn't have is massaging seats, which that's just getting so nitpicky. As we make our way to the center console, you have an array of hard buttons and touchscreen buttons. The touchscreen buttons don't have haptic feedback. However, when you touch them, they do give you a little chime or a ding sound every time you touch something, so that way you do know that you are actually touching it. You can switch between your drive modes, so you have snow, rain, and dry with the all-wheel drive system. That's specifically a thing that you can get with drive modes and the all-wheel drive. You've got four-wheel lock, so that way you can lock the rear differential. Very cool feature to have on this vehicle. You have downhill descent mode, so you hit that. The brakes and the transmission and the transfer case will all work together to guide the vehicle down a steep grade in the event that you find yourself off-roading your Santa Fe. Not gonna question anything that anybody does, but if you're off-roading in a Santa Fe, I want to be friends with you because it sounds like you like to party. You can pull up your cameras and you can turn off your parking sensors if you automatically know that you're going to be in a spot that's tight, like your garage or anything like that. You can turn those on and off as needed so they don't annoy you. You have physical buttons for changing tracks, radio stations. That's something I really like because sometimes when you have those touchscreen features for changing through tracks and stuff like that, it gets annoying because you don't get an actual feedback of a touchscreen, or you just end up skipping too far along. It's pretty annoying, but having a hard button for that, super sweet. Man, this thing just self-drives itself. It's just so cool. It's a weird thing to keep bringing up, but I'm just not expecting that out of a Hyundai and for it to work this good. There's a fun way to kind of give you an analogy about this, but Hyundai has two buttons in the car right here, as far as on the steering wheel and on the dash. They're two separate buttons that you can program as auxiliary switches to get to different menus, just at the quick tap of a button. Kind of similar to how BMW has the M button, where you hit that and you can have predetermined settings for suspension speed and throttle response. This is more or less not for performance reasons, but if you want to have a quick button that gets you back to a certain menu. So the first one, the star button here on the steering wheel, will get us back to Android Auto. We just hit that, it immediately just takes you away from the screen because there are a lot of different things that you can scroll through on these screens. Or the other one, on the actual dash itself, there's a star button, and that button takes you to the hybrid performance map of what this vehicle is currently doing as far as regenerating the battery and the overall performance of the hybrid system. Again, these buttons are reprogrammable, so you can have them do a lot of different functions, but that's just the way we have them set up on this car right now. when we work our way down from the dual climate control and all the touchscreen buttons that activate all that stuff with your heated, cooled seats, all that stuff, that's all great. But when we work our way down from there, we have a single, and in this particular car, we have a single wireless charging pad. You can option it out for two. However, we just have it as a pad where you can just set your phone down. We have two USB-C chargers. And then an interesting thing over here is you'll see a button that says UVC. You tap that, and then there's an upper glove box that you can stick your phone in, or whatever else. Toothbrush? I don't know. You can stick that in there, hit this UVC. This is kind of a post-COVID kind of thing where it's supposed to desanitize your phone or keys or whatever. You put it in there, you hit the button, works kind of like a cleaning oven, and just not with heat, but with UV light. It's supposed to kill all the bacteria and clean it all off for you. Might be kind of a gimmicky kind of thing, but hey, if it makes you feel better by doing it, Hyundai's got you covered. Moving back from there, we're going to actually do a cup holder count here later on in the episode to just see exactly how many cup holders this car has, because it is a bit overkill, but we're in America and we like our cup holders. So right here we've got two cup holders that can hold pretty good size, I'd say big gulps, if just by looking at it. We might have to go buy a big gulp to figure that one out. But going back from the cup holders, you have one of the most interesting center console designs that I've seen in a while. You can open it from the front, and then in the back seat, they can open it from back there. Pretty genius if you ask me, because sometimes someone back there is like, oh, do you have a Kleenex or whatever? And they'd be like, yeah, but you're driving, you don't want to have to keep fumbling around. All you do is just move your arm over, they reach in, they can grab it themselves. Inside the center console has a removable tray, and then on top of that, you can actually pull the center console towards you from the inside, and then you can get access to more storage that is actually tucked up underneath. There's a lot of witchcraft going on as far as how they designed the center console for the maximum amount of storage. But on top of that too, it's actually hollow between the front two seats. So you can stick whatever you need to stick down there. There's actually additional charging ports down there. This is a very well set up vehicle for long distance driving or just a family of 5. The paddles actually have two different functions depending on what mode you're in for the vehicle. You can use them as the standard shifting through gears and all that kind of stuff, which comes in handy if you're, say, I don't know, going through the mountains of Tennessee or through the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. You can adjust your transmission to have the right downhill speed. Or you can change them in the hybrid setting where you can change the regenerative braking to have more increased regenerative braking or less regenerative braking. And what that means is that when you let off the brake, you're actually letting the electric motor do the braking, and actually at the same time recharge the batteries. And it's a more efficient way to drive the vehicle, and it's just one of these things where you just kind of have to learn and feel out how to drive a hybrid vehicle to get the most out of it. But in the long haul, when you drive with regenerative braking, you're saving your brake pads and you're saving your brakes in general, giving you a lot better reliability and a lot less maintenance costs in the long run. So from our long distance drive from Texas to Michigan, we've noticed trying to learn how to drive this vehicle better after using the regenerative braking system more. We've realized that we've been using the actual brake pedal about 50% less than we normally would have. So that's substantial when it comes to actually making your brakes last longer. Overall, this is a 3-row SUV, which is kind of wild to think about when you look at how small it appears from the outside, but once you're inside the vehicle, my goodness, the legroom it doesn't end. I'm 6'3", I have more than enough room. I've got my cousin Chase with me. He's 6'5" and still has to move the seat forward. If I'm in the front seat and he's behind me in the back seat, he still has room to spare. And if I'm riding in my normal driving position and he's sitting in the back seat, plenty of room. So there's zero excuses if you're trying to justify going for a huge Chevy Suburban or something like that. This car punches well above its weight as far as interior room, interior space, as well as the creature comforts that you get with it. The back seat's kind of interesting. So you can get it spec'd in two ways. You can get captain's chairs in the back seat or a bench seat. Preferably the bench seat, I think, is the better way to go. There's just more usable seating and all that kind of stuff. The third row seating, it's a bit tight. However, It's good for short distance drives if you have to stick someone back there, or if you just have a bunch of kids, they'll fit back there just fine. One of the interesting things though that we saw about the third row is that when you have them folded flat and you're using it as trunk space, there's a climate control back there for the air conditioning. And you would kind of think that's weird because they didn't offer climate control for the middle seats. And we started digging into it, and it's actually a clever design feature where if you have groceries in the trunk that you want to keep cool, you can turn the thermostat low in the rear, and that way you have the air conditioning running in the back, and then you can have it warmer in the front. It's pretty smart to actually think that far ahead. The front two seats are dual climate controlled, but whatever the driver sets their temperature at, the back seat behind them is also going to get that same temperature, and vice versa for the passenger seat. Or if you have it on sync mode where everything is the same temperature, the front forward four seats are going to have the same temperature. Coming back to the front dash, below the UV glove box, because that's a thing, is an additional cubby port where you can hide things or stash things. Whether you have a tablet, multiple devices, you can just stick them in there for quick access. And then below that is the actual glove box itself. Overall, a lot of storage in this vehicle. Each door has its own cubby for additional cups, like a tumbler or something like that. The back doors have 2 cup holders plus a tumbler pocket. And then the back third row has, I believe, 4 more cup holders. Oh, I don't have to be driving. I keep forgetting that. I instinctively want to drive, but it's just doing it. The back seats have 2 buttons, as far as, actually 3, but when you come into the back seat, if you want to get someone to get access to the third row, there's a button on the base of the seat and there's a button at the top of the seat. You just tap that button and the seat will automatically fold just enough far forward for a person to climb into the back seat. Why they have 2 buttons for that, I don't know. And then if you're in the trunk, you can actually there's 2 buttons there that you can automatically fold all of the seats fully flat and just have a massive cargo space. So when you have all of the seats folded flat, you have 79.6 cubic feet of storage space. Hard to describe exactly how much space that is, but it's a lot. You can definitely haul a lot of stuff, whether or not you go to the flea market and you just start spending money on stuff you don't need with old antique furniture. Not talking from experience from last weekend, but you can fit a lot of stuff in this car and get it home. Given the boxy design of this vehicle, you have the full shape of the vehicle on the inside as far as having the consistency of having a square shape to fit as much as possible inside the vehicle. When it comes to the powertrain of this vehicle, we're looking at a 4-cylinder hybrid, and so the gas engine is going to put out 178 horsepower and the electric motor is going to put out 60 horsepower. Now this is where things get a little weird, because on Hyundai's website they advertise 231 combined horsepower. So when you add those 2 numbers together, you get 238 horsepower. It's not the same, but we're gonna guess there's maybe a driveline loss that they're just thinking people aren't gonna think about. I don't know, but just kind of odd that they would advertise it that way on their website when clearly you can just do the math and figure out a little bit of a discrepancy. Whatever. Overall, the vehicle does drive great. It's a very smooth riding vehicle, very smooth shifting vehicle, and the overall ambiance of being quiet inside, it's very nice. Speaking of which, looking up above, we have a dual pane roof where this part is manual. That's fine with me, and then you have a button that can open up the rear shade cover and give the back seat passengers a little bit of sunlight to look at. So when it comes to fuel economy, Hyundai advertises that the vehicle should get about 34 miles per gallon combined at city and highway. Coming from Texas to Michigan, we got a pretty good grasp on it, and including idle time, city, highway, all that kind of stuff, we're looking at about 32 miles per gallon, which again, for a 3-row SUV, that's really good. Reliability is definitely one of those things that with the Hyundai brand name, it hasn't had the greatest reputation. However, they've taken steps to correct that for the future, and this vehicle being one of them, where they have a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty that you get straight from the factory, and that covers your powertrain and the hybrid system and the hybrid battery pack. I don't have very many negative things to say about this vehicle, because anything that I could possibly think of with the reliability side, like I said, they're covering with the warranty. The vehicle drives very smooth. It has more than enough tech options that, to be honest, I would never in 100 years think that it would come in a Hyundai. The overall styling is a bit subjective. Some people just aren't fans of the boxy design. It takes some people some time to come around to it. Overall, I immediately fell in love with the looks of this thing when they redesigned it. The old Santa Fe just went by and it just looks boring. It's just an ordinary crossover. Kind of bummed when Ford discontinued the Flex, but this is, not to sound corny, but this kind of flexes on the Flex because of how much technology they crammed into this thing. Time will tell though, like how reliable this car is in the long run. No one really knows because it's a new platform. If it runs like this for 80,000 miles, I think this thing is a slam dunk win for Hyundai. With a fuel tank capacity of 17.7 gallons and the EPA estimated 34 miles per gallon, you're looking at roughly, like I said, if you're trying to drive this thing as perfect as possible, it could be a 600-mile range on one tank of gas. From our experience, we're looking at about 500 to 575, somewhere in that range, but probably closer to the 550 mark, which isn't bad. Again, we're talking about a 3-row SUV with a lot of storage, very comfortable ride, a lot of technology packed into it, and it's shaped like a box. It shouldn't be this good on fuel economy, but it is. I'm just blown away by it. Plus the self-driving, I'm on a road right now that's really rough on the lines and it's still picking everything up and guiding us along. So now we're gonna do 2 different 0 to 60 times. We're gonna do one 0 to 60 time in the hybrid mode, which is more of the eco-friendly mode. And then we're gonna do another one in the sport mode just to see how vastly different the 0 to 60 times are.
It's counting.
We're going, foot's all the way down. 60.
7.3.
7.3 seconds in eco mode. Cool. All right, now we're gonna switch this into sport mode.
It's counting.
That was a hard shift. 60.
9.4.
What? After thinking about it more, realizing that this is a hybrid powertrain, when we did the first 0 to 60 time, we did deplete the actual battery when we did that first 0 to 60 run, which would explain why the sport mode did everything that it could from the gas portion, but just didn't have any of the battery power to really give it that extra oomph to get this thing off the line. Regardless, you're still looking at about 7 to 7.3 0 to 60 time. I really don't think sport mode is going to change a whole lot from that time. It's an average accelerating vehicle because it wasn't designed to be the fastest car. It was designed to be a comfortable cross-country cruiser that can haul everything you need. Speaking of hauling, if you do spec this with a trailer hitch, you're looking at about 2,000 pounds of payload that you can tow with this thing. So that's good enough for, you know, a set of kayaks, a couple of jet skis, probably a U-Haul trailer, depending on what you're putting in the trailer. Overall, it's not what this vehicle is designed to do, but if you do have to tow things and you option it with the tow package, you could get away with doing some light work. So $50,000, that's a good chunk of change. In the automotive world, when you really start breaking down how many cars are entering that $50,000 threshold, whether it's a Chevy, Ford, or Ram, Chrysler product, even BMW and Mercedes have some of their lines hovering right around that price point, if not just a little bit above. It's a lot of money, but when you really start to consider all of the features that this Hyundai has, it's a pretty good contender, because I mean, you can cross-shop this against the Ford Explorer, you can cross-shop this against just about any crossover SUV that's on the market. All the price points are going to be roughly the same. You'll have obviously your cheaper contenders with the lower trim level packages that'll be in the upper 30s, but if you're in the market to look at a $50,000 family vehicle that is a good cross-country commuter, the Santa Fe really does check all of the boxes that you would need out of a vehicle. Sometimes though, you do need a bigger vehicle, and you could probably look at like a Toyota Sequoia. There is physically more space in those, but they do come at a cost with worse fuel economy and a higher price tag. Give one of these a look when you're actually going through shopping for a vehicle. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Thanks for watching this video on the all-new Santa Fe. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like this video. If you can, give us a subscribe. There's going to be new videos every single week. Stay up on top of our social media on Instagram and Facebook. We'll be posting behind the scenes content there and some fun trivial things about vehicles. Yeah, we'll see you guys around.